Finding clarity in unexpected places. The astrology of the full moon in Gemini. The burning question of this full moon, at a time when you may find yourself grappling with tricky contradictions and conflicting messages, is simple and yet profound. Where does duality show up in your life right now? And more importantly, does it torment you or does it teach you? The Gemini full moon arriving on December the 4th might feel like it is here to force you into making some premature choice, but that is not where you will find clarity. Instead, it's here to illuminate something most of us would rather avoid, the uncomfortable truth that something inside you is trying to express two realities at once. This is Celestia Astrology, and I'm your host, Sonia. If you enjoy this, I'd be so grateful for your likes, subscribes, and comments. Please just leave, even if it's just a Gemini emoji or a moon emoji. I'd be so grateful for your interactions and comments. It really makes a difference to a small channel. My teacher, Adam Ellenbass of Nightlight Astrology, reminds us students regularly that two things can be true at once, and never is that more relevant than under this mutable full moon in Gemini, with the sun opposite in Sagittarius. This is the axis of information versus meaning, of gathering versus understanding. Traditional astrology calls Gemini and Sagittarius, as well as Virgo and Pisces, double-bodied signs for good reason. They arrive at seasonal crossroads where the weather and light can't decide what they want to be. In a time of transition, they're threshold keepers, teaching us that liminal space isn't something to be rushed through. It is its own thing, a place where transformation happens. So where do you feel mentally divided? Maybe you're trying to be one thing when you're actually two or more. The Gemini full moon illuminates these questions with Mercury's restless intelligence, but Mercury is currently in Scorpio, newly direct and just emerged from being under the beams, a place where it was obscured by its proximity to the sun. Mercury is averse to this moon, meaning its rays of light, using traditional Ptolemaic aspects, cannot reach the moon to support it, making its influence subtle and subterranean. We must listen beneath the surface, to the whispers from our intuition. Mutable air means transition. Gemini is adept at pivoting, bridging energies, embracing flexibility and adapting. This same flexibility can make completion difficult. Air signs process through thought, and mutable air multiplies those thoughts. Under this full moon, your mind can spin with possibilities while your life is demanding decisions. Each new perspective multiplies the choices instead of clarifying. This is where Gemini's yang quality matters. Yang signs are known to be outward moving and active, but Gemini's strength is holding multiple truths without insisting one must be wrong. It can see many viewpoints simultaneously, gather information from every direction and yet still want more. The challenge isn't in the gathering, it's when it comes to choosing. That's when mental pressure peaks, when every thought potentially becomes a blade. Full moons are moments of culmination and revelation. The seed planted 6 months ago with the Gemini new moon ripens and reveals its shape. In mutable air, this illumination happens in the realm of thought and communication. The moon in Gemini opposes the sun in Sagittarius, creating tension between gathering information and assigning meaning. Gemini wants every piece of data, while Sagittarius seeks the single truth. This opposition asks your mind to do contradictory things simultaneously, to both expand and contract, and to question and conclude. Mutable signs are meant to transition. In Gemini air, this relates to mental flexibility. You might see multiple sides of a situation and comfortably shift perspective when new information arrives. Under a full moon, this gift can become a challenge. The illumination doesn't show just one clear path. It can show all of those multiple paths, each of which could be valid. The clarity you seek doesn't come from choosing one path and abandoning the others. It comes from learning to walk a part of each of them, or at least understanding why each matters, or what it is showing you. Air signs process meaning through thought, and multiple air multiplies those thoughts. Instead of one conclusion, you might get contradictory, completing narratives. The full moon's light reveals the multiplicity, deepening the complexity. We might begin to understand that truth isn't singular, as we are shown how it's layered and shifting. Look to where in your life Gemini and Mercury rule in your chart. The practical experience could be familiar, waking in the small hours with many interconnected problems racing through your mind. You may have a straightforward conversation, but see so many sides of it that you no longer even know what you think. Mutable signs are comfortable with being unfinished and in process. They ask that you keep moving and integrating. In mutable air, your thoughts are best seen as provisional. Your conclusions can be temporary. You can hold a viewpoint today, and its opposite tomorrow. And this doesn't make you inconsistent. It's okay. It makes you fast to respond to the environment. Mercury retrograde in Scorpio, which has just finished, has been pulling fixed threads from the depths, maybe hidden patterns or buried truths. As Mercury picks up speed now from its retrograde, you may experience profound psychological insight that at first feels like confusion. You could be seeing more than you can process and understanding more than you can articulate. The full moon illuminates the map, but it doesn't tell you which way to walk. You are now asked to navigate it without needing to simplify it. Sometimes illumination offers a deeper awareness of the complexity and asks if we have the courage to live in the questions. The moon family adds a deeper layer. This full moon at 13 degrees of Gemini is the last chapter of a cycle that began in June 2024. Something you started questioning last summer is now ready to bear fruit. But Gemini seeds don't grow into single trunk trees. They become multi-branched, unable to be just one thing and delighting in multiplicity. The real teaching here is that clarity comes from embracing the movement. If you can stop forcing yourself into one identity, you create space for something more authentic. Gemini gathers information while Sagittarius assigns meaning. At this time, both collide, and if you can allow it the space, then the result can move from confusion to a more complete truth. This full moon at 13 degrees of Gemini is the third chapter in what astrologers call a moon family. This is a concept outlined by Dietrich Pessin in her book Lunar Shadows 3. Understanding this timeline transforms this single night from a moment into a greater journey, showing you exactly where you are in a much larger story of mental and emotional evolution. A moon family is a series of 4 lunations that trace the Sun-Moon relationship through a specific degree range. Think of it as a complete narrative arc, the seed, a challenge, revelation, and finally integration. These cycles are subtle but predictable, unfolding beneath the surface of our daily lives. While any full moon in Gemini will influence all Geminis and mutable or air signs generally, the moon family story adds a deeper nuance. The dates for this Gemini full moon on the 4th of December are: the new moon, the seeding moment, was on June the 6th, 2024, at 17 degrees of Gemini. The first quarter moon, a time of adjustment and challenge, was on March the 6th, 2025, at 16 degrees of Gemini. The full moon is now December the 4th, 2025, at 13 degrees of Gemini, and this is the time of revelation and illumination. And then the last quarter moon will bring the time of integration, and that'll be on September the 4th, 2026, at 11 degrees of Gemini. So the people who will feel this moon family most deeply would be those who have the sun, moon, or ascendant, or any other planets between 9 to 18 degrees of Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, or Pisces, or between those degrees in the air signs Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. This moon family will be speaking directly to your personal story. Also those with Mercury as their Lord of the Year, or solar return ascendant, they'll be walking this timeline in real time. An astrologer or astro coach can help you identify these placements and understand how this specific moon family activates your chart. You can also upgrade your Substack subscription to join Celestia Circle, and I offer monthly Zoom sessions where in a group we go through these moon families, and there's workbooks so you can work consciously with the moon families as they unfold. This moon family timeline matters because it shows you that the pressure at this time of the full moon isn't random. It's a culmination of 18 months of subtle mental work. The thoughts keeping you awake at 3 a.m., the conversations you are replaying or overthinking, the multiplicities you may be criticizing in yourself are all part of this larger arc. You're not at fault in any way for feeling divided. Instead, you're right on schedule. The moon family is teaching that duality isn't a problem to solve, but a process to take your time moving through. In the light of this full moon, ask yourself, What seed did I plant in June 2024? And what challenge did I face in March 2025? What's being revealed now that connects those moments? The answers will show you that your mind hasn't been scattered. Rather, it's been following a pattern that's developing all along. The kind of pattern and intellectual journey that doesn't need to choose one truth because it understands that truth itself is layered and beautifully contradictory. Decan 2, the Hermaphrodite. As the moon moves into the second decan of Gemini, a mysterious territory where the contradiction stops being a problem and starts becoming a path. This decan is co-ruled by Mars and Venus, a pairing that immediately signals tension. Venus seeks harmony and connection, while Mars drives towards separation and action. In the triplicity scheme, Venus holds sway, bringing charm and relational intelligence. But in the descending order method, Mars dominates, adding drive, motivation, aggression, and the courage to cut through illusion. Combined with Mercury's, Gemini's ruler, intellectual influence, this creates a potent mix of desire and decisiveness, of attraction and intellectual curiosity powered by the will to act. Austin Coppock names this decan the Hermaphrodite, symbolizing holding opposites within a single being. Austin Coppock frames this as a sacred meeting point between masculine and feminine forces. It is not a peaceful merging, but an active negotiation between contradicting impulses. He writes that this is a place of art and war, as Mars and Venus negotiate, and continuing duality as ruler Mercury holds sway. Here, we must learn to reconcile angels and demons within a single soul. The hermaphrodite can hold both, integrate both, and look to become more than one thing. This speaks directly to the burning question of this full moon. Where you feel divided, you are not faulty. Rather, you are in a process of becoming. The hermaphrodite symbol is both psychological and mythological, a figure that contains multitudes, that refuses to be one thing because it understands that wholeness includes contradictions and multiplicity. Kira Reiberg calls this decan complexity, and her description deepens the picture. She emphasizes the layered, shifting nature of this territory, where human thought turns into fractal patterning and contradictions illuminate each other. What can feel like mental chaos is actually a system with its own order. The overwhelming feeling of having too many thoughts, too many perspectives, is not your mind failing. Your mind is recognizing more than one reality at a time. Gemini 2 asks, what if both meanings are true? The decan teaches that multiplicity isn't a bug in your psychological system. It's the feature that makes you human. The Wild Way Oracle card is titled Embrace Contradiction. The card illustrates an eagle soaring high in the sky, carrying a rose in its talons. It reminds us that holding multiple viewpoints can be empowering, or some truths can be uncomfortable. Navigating these polarities, the tension of opposites, with kindness towards ourselves can be key. We might reflect on where the tenderness and beauty of the rose are opposed by the sharp talons of the eagle in flight. We might have expected to see it carrying its prey, but it is showing a new, unexpected side as it transports this rose so tenderly. It's about active engagement with and reflection on the parts of yourself that don't fit together neatly, and distills this decan into 3 simple keywords: tension between opposites, value of duality, and be kind to your mind. The Wild Ray reminds us that navigating polarities with kindness towards yourself is key. Some truths are uncomfortable, but the tension itself is teaching you something. The pressure you feel can be the friction required to create something new. The tarot card for this decan is the 9 of Swords, and this is where the teaching gets sharp. This card marks the peak of mental activity. It shows us where fear, anxiety, and overthinking spiral into late-night rumination. The 9 of Swords isn't simply mental struggle. It offers a threshold and a way forwards. It shows that moment before dawn, with a figure sitting up in bed, hands over their face, while 9 swords hang on the wall or in the air, behind or above them. The swords symbolize the thoughts you can't unthink, or perhaps the truths you can't unsee. They're also the tools of consciousness, the sharp edges that can carve out space for new understanding. The mind is overwhelmed because it is ready to transform. The swords represent thoughts turned sharp, but also thought becoming conscious, as it is refined and being processed. What you fear may simply be an unintegrated truth trying to surface. Those 3 a.m. thoughts that keep you awake can be the unspoken parts of yourself that are now ready for integration. T. Susan Chang's verse weaves these threads together, capturing the psychological alchemy of Gemini 2. Words shift like quicksilver, while nightmares can become dreams. Reality is shaped by attention. The mind is therefore both the creator and created. Under this full moon, you're not just observing your contradictions, you can actively weave them into a new pattern. Lovers' words. Think once, think twice, lest you pay too cruel a price. There may be shivers up your spine when words unweave and recombine. Magician. All's not what it seems. Hone your nightmares into dreams. Recall, when feeling strained or fraught, reality is but a thought. That to which the mind attends is just a means to different ends. This isn't a moon for choosing just one narrative or path, it's a moon for embracing dual narratives and leaning into their coexistence until their relationship teaches you something essential about yourself. There are no easy answers here, but you are offered the capacity to find peace beyond multiplicity and to discover that the contradictions you thought were breaking you are actually making you whole. Let's ground this now by looking up at the astrological conversation in the sky. What connections are the planets making with each other that can inform us further? The full moon is forming part of a mutable grand cross. This configuration creates a crossroads both in your chart and in your life. The moon at 13 degrees of Gemini opposes not just the sun in Sagittarius, but also a cluster or stellium of planets. Mars is with Venus and the sun all close together. Oppositions bring tension of conflicting desires. They're of the nature of Saturn, slowing us down to learn. It's a confrontation between Gemini's need to hold multiple possibilities and Sagittarius's drive to find the one true answer. Mars adds urgency and aggression to that search. Venus, newly combust, has lost visibility and is concerned with burning away false attachments and purifying your desires. The result is an immersion in conflicting impulses, expand and contract, and question and conclude. This axis forms part of a mutable grand cross with the moon's nodes in Pisces and Virgo at 13 degrees, a crossroads where the 4 directions seem to pull you simultaneously. Mutable signs push you to adapt and reorient. They don't let you stand still. In a grand cross, that energy becomes intense. You feel the pressure from every angle. The Gemini moon wants to keep gathering information. The Sagittarius stellium wants to assign meaning and act on it. The Pisces North Node is dissolving boundaries and asks you to trust the unseen. The Virgo South Node is reducing your ability to apply practical analysis and discernment. You can't satisfy all 4 at once, and that's the point. A grand cross is the moment you realize that standing still is no longer an option, but moving forward means making a choice that will disappoint some part of yourself. Mercury, the ruler of this moon, is applying to a water trine with Jupiter in Cancer and Saturn in Pisces. This creates a hidden current beneath the surface tension. Jupiter in Cancer offers generous, intuitive expansion, teaching you to trust your gut. Saturn in Pisces brings structure and discipline to your emotional maturity. Can we hold the boundary, it asks you. Mercury threads these together, pulling truth and old patterns from the past, out of the depths where they were hidden, secrets you've kept, maybe even from yourself. This trine can be your anchor. You've become very familiar with the watery trine energy throughout November. When the grand cross feels like it's pulling you and you don't know which way to turn, this watery trio reminds you that you have internal resources. Are you able to rely on and trust your intuition and emotional wisdom rather than reactivity? So how do you work with this? Here are 5 practical steps for navigating this full moon. Name the contradiction. The moment you articulate both sides of your internal conflict, the mental pressure softens. Write it down, say it out loud, or tell a trusted friend. Maybe, I'm terrified of this change, but I know it's necessary. Something like that. Naming both truths doesn't resolve them, but it just stops them from fighting in the shadows of your mind. 2. Make multiplicity a strength. In mutable times, flexibility is power. Instead of seeing your many viewpoints as a flaw, recognize them as a skill. Multiple paths will keep you moving, while the Grand Cross grinds pressure into clarity. Allow yourself to hold several possibilities at once without needing to choose immediately. The pressure you feel is actually your mind working exactly as it should, taking time to see the full complexity before committing. 3. Reassure the mind. Anxiety under this full moon isn't always a sign that something's wrong. It can be a sign that something's transforming. Acknowledge the anxiety rather than wrestling with it. Write, move, breathe. Just aim to release the pressure without suppressing the insight that wants to arrive. You might tell yourself something like, my mind is overwhelmed because it's growing, not because it's broken. 4. Stay curious and not certain. Sagittarius wants the answer. Gemini wants the question. Allow space for both. Let both be present. When you feel the urge to land on one definitive truth, pause and ask another question instead. What haven't I considered? What's the opposite perspective? What would this look like if I didn't need to be right? 5. Follow the Mercury-Jupiter-Saturn trine. Trust the emotional truths that Jupiter in Cancer reveals. Take mature responsibility for what Saturn in Pisces is showing you. Speak from that depth and honesty that Mercury is pulling from your subconscious. This isn't a time to worry about quick fixes. It's about building a new relationship with your own mind. To deepen this work, you might want to try these journal prompts. What contradiction in my life is trying to teach me something? Where am I carrying unnecessary mental pressure? What has been unfolding since June 2024 that now asks for clarity? Which thought patterns need compassion rather than control? Where am I trying to oversimplify something that is naturally complex? Ritual and astro-mindfulness suggestions. You might try a duality walk. When you go out, notice all the pairs that are around you. Maybe light and dark, high and low, or still and moving. What else? Two-voice journaling. Let the two sides of a conflict speak on the page. Gemini breathing. Breathe mindfully. Inhale curiosity and exhale release. Light a small flame, and as you gaze into it, speak one truth you're ready to honor and one question you're willing to hold without the answer. Inner dialogue meditation. Sit in stillness. Imagine your rational and intuitive voices meeting together as equals. What do they talk about? And how does this look for you? And finally, the Gemini full moon might feel busy, contradictory, or tangled, but within that complexity lies a rare kind of clarity. Gemini teaches that seeming opposites are often two halves of the same insight. How does it feel to let yourself hold both truths? Look for the pattern behind the noise, and above all, be kind to your mind. The contradiction you're wrestling with isn't a flaw to fix. It's a path to wholeness. Travel well, friends. My books are open if you would like a personal and individual astrology reading. You can book in at celestiaastrology.com.